What's up guys, it's Daveincid here with my debut on YouTube to provide you as much information as possible to increase the realism of your Football Manager save. Before I start, please keep in mind that this is my personal view of playing Football Manager realistically. If you have another opinion, this is completely fine. Feel free to share your own view with me. As you might notice, English isn't my first language. I try my best, but let me know if you didn't understand something I said. But now, let's get straight into it. Well, it's not needed, but it's definitely beneficial. Even with a high-end CPU, you need some patience to play Football Manager this way. Football Manager benefits from a good CPU and quick RAM with tight timings. Especially the benefit of quick RAM is overlooked by so many people. It's a cheaper way to increase the speed of Football Manager instead of buying a new CPU or even a whole new computer. You can find a speed comparison on SE website, which I will link down to the description. If you want to play with all leagues loaded, including custom leagues, it's sometimes difficult to avoid crashes. It took me some time for myself to find good files to test my own Megapack for a long-term compatibility. If you are unsure if these files you selected causing problems, I would just run a test save overnight with all files loaded. If it didn't crash until the next morning, it's a good sign that it will be stable in the long run. For a realistic and worldwide balanced save game, it's important to load the top division in as many nations playable as possible. This will guarantee you that they are staying competitive. I attached a link where you can see the importance for each nation for a worldwide balanced save game. I recommend the following setup. I would load at least the top 2 leagues in the top 5 nations in Europe, so in England, in Spain, France, Italy and in Germany, and select the option View Only below. You could also do this for Brazil and Argentina as well. For all other nations in level 1, I would set the top division as playable and the others as View Only below. Same goes for the level 2 if your CPU can handle it. If not, select them as View Only. For level 3, I would set it to View Only in general. Level 4 depends on your aim for an ultimative realism save game, but this is mostly just overkill. But it's not really necessary for worldwide balance to load these leagues at all. So if you have done everything like I said, it looks more or less like this. So you have all nations playable, some top leagues like England. Here I took League 2, but normally it's only the top league playable. Another thing is the advanced database option. I realized that a lot of people overlook this or just avoid it because they think it might cause problems later in game. For a balanced save game, it's important that you have enough players around the world which are competing in every top division. So I created a setup where you can see I loaded all players from top division clubs and even, according to the league, the players from the divisions which are setting to View Only. So in total there are 208,000 players in your database. Another thing which is really important for a realistic save game is to disable the first window for transfer activity, because in real life it already happened. Why is it important to load players via the advanced database if you have leagues setting to view only. View only leagues sometimes don't have real players, which makes it nonsense to load them in this kind of setup at all. These teams will struggle in the future to keep up with playable leagues even more. People are often worried about the game speed with so many players in the database. It's a common myth that loading more players slows down your save massively or increase the risk of crashes. It has an impact, but much less as you think in terms of speed. You can test this simply with loading only one league and 200,000 players, and you will see the game is still really fast. Setting leagues to simulate in full detail uses multi-core pretty heavy, so it can take a pretty long time for CPUs with only 4 cores or even less. A lot of leagues playable also slows down your game. Without full detail, a good single core performance is the key here. Custom data in general slows down performance, but there are big differences what kind of custom data is used. Lower league files, for example, can have a big negative impact, so I recommend using not too many of them at the same time. Incredibly amount of players loaded also affects performance, as I stated before, but down to my experience, if you don't load 200,000 plus, this effect is not that big compared to the others I mentioned before. All custom graphics loaded do not have any influence at the game speed at all. As far as I know, it has some influence in terms of RAM usage. Unloaded nations is simply unloaded, so no visible league schedule, no league table, and teams usually have grayed out players only. There is no staff available and the coaches won't be replaced as soon as the current one gets fired or finding a new job. And you also have less injuries compared to playable, and there will be less transfer activity overall. With view only, you will see league schedules and league table as well as a slight increase of transfer activity. If you set a league as playable, you of course will see the league schedule, the league table, you will have full squads, existing stuff which will be replaced later in game, you have a realistic transfer activity, and even some games will be simulated with the full match engine. And as I said, you will see a slight increase of injuries overall. So what exactly is now the benefit on playing on full detail? You might have wondered why always the same 2 or 3 teams are winning the top division in most nations and there are no surprises in the Champions League or in other international competitions. This is because the detail level isn't set to full detail. Football Manager is using 2 match engines. The Quick Match engine is used for no detail games, and the Full Match engine for full detailed games. The Quick Match engine is using much less calculations to simulate a game. It's mostly down to a player's current ability, his reputation, and the club's reputation. With full detail, even the halftime speech, a player's personality, or the weather can have some influence too. I highly recommend simulating games from international club competitions in full detail, especially in Europe. The 5 years ranking represents the success of a nation in European club football for 5 years. So this has a huge influence how strong or weak teams or even the whole nation is represented. With full details, you will have much more surprising competitors who might have a really good run. As a human manager, you have some benefits over the AI. You can be much better in transfers because you don't feel pressure or concerns which teams have in real life. I think that's a reason why the AI is not that aggressive versus a human manager fighting against specific talent. It looks like a weak programmed AI, but for me it's just insane programming skills by the SE developers. With that in mind, you might not just buy a wonder kit for £20 million while managing a team that would never do that in real life in their current situation. This gave me a much more immersive game experience. This was my first YouTube video. I know there is much room of improvement, but I hope you might got some informations which you didn't know before. If you have questions, feel free to send me a message. If you liked my video, I would be happy if you subscribe my channel and leave a like. If you want to follow my projects on Football Manager 21, especially my Megapack, check out my Twitter account. I will post interesting updates from my test saves from time to time. It would make me happy if you support my work, so feel free to check out my Patreon or PayPal. Thanks for watching and stay safe. Cheers, Daveincid.